Alright, good evening and thank you for tuning into my channel. My name's DrWeez and I am a South African overclocker. Right, so tonight we're basically going to carry on with the ProOC round 3. We're looking at stages 1 and 2. The hardware limitation is on the X99 broadwell-e configuration, and this would be my only, or would be my not only, but would be my second session with the broadwell-e in the lab. And you know, the first session we went straight with liquid nitrogen. We didn't do much preparation work, and it was a little bit of a disaster, but some good foundations were made. So tonight we're sitting now with air cooling. We're not going to go and do any liquid nitrogen tonight, so it's really just testing the memory. So let's just go and have a look at what we've got running here tonight. So we've got the Intel Core i7 6950X. That's a 10-core processor with 25 megs of cache. We're using the Rampage V Edition 10 motherboard, along with the Cooler Master Neptune 280L. So that's going to be providing our cooling solution tonight, and then the power is be delivered by the Corsair Elite Overclockers edition of the AX1500R, and that's on the side here. It's a little bit off screen. Let me see if I can get it in there. Alright, there it is there. And yeah, as I said, we were just going to be going ahead and just doing some stock standard air cooling. So underneath here you can see it's all in one solution. I've just got the fan blowing a little bit of air around the memory. And on that subject, the memory we'll be using tonight is the HyperX Fury Black Edition 2666C15. The plan tonight is just to use a couple of the profiles that ASUS provide us, and yeah, just to see what we can get out of the memory. Nothing too fancy, nothing too hectic, and it's really just you can use the same sort of strategy that I'm using now to get a little bit extra performance out of your gaming setup as well. So we're going to go ahead and just start off now with the CPU clocking. So we'll just change the view here quickly. I'm already in the BIOS, and what I've done is I can actually start again just to show you guys. So we'll just go ahead and load optimized defaults. Right, so from optimized defaults we're going to use a preset that they have already defined in the BIOS, and we're just going to go with the 10-core broadwell-e CPU Gamers OC profile. So let's just go ahead and load that, and then I can go through basically what it sets. So the first thing that it would set, it sets your first two cores at 44, multiplier 43, 42, 41. So that's basically just steps up or steps down the frequency per core. And the reason why I think they do that is just purely for heat and for stability. The memory it sets is just 2666, and then the voltages it sets 1.3 on the core with a offset of 0.07. That gives you an ultimate voltage of 1.30. Cache override it just sets at 1.4, and then for the DRAM it's going and sets 1.35. So that's really stock, straightforward, safe settings. If we F10 that and reboot, it shouldn't be a problem, and we should boot in. While we're waiting for the X99 to boot in, let's go ahead and just show you some of the new things we've got going on the HUD today. So down here you'll notice now that I've got CPU and lab. So tonight we aren't running the CPU with liquid nitrogen, so I don't have a temperature probe on that, but the temperature in the lab at the moment is around 21 degrees, and that's thanks to a really nice cozy gas heater that I've got going behind me. And then if you have a look over here, we've got V1 and V2. Now that is the voltage read points that I've got configured, that I've actually soldered onto the motherboard. So that's live real-time voltage that has been set on V1 is the CPU core, and V2 I've put the cache voltage in there. See, it's very nice, so you'll be able to get a good understanding of what voltages and what the voltages are all doing. The offset seems to be about 0.1 off. So if it's reading 1.52 at the moment for cache, it's actually 1.42. So it's just a little calibration that I need to still get fine-tuned on the reading. And for V1, it's not reading anything at the moment. So I think okay, it came out. Let's just put that back in. Maybe my earth is bad. Okay. So it looks like there's still a little bit of tinkering to be done here. by the looks of it. It was reading perfectly earlier before I started streaming, but anyway, I'll get that ironed out. So that's quite handy for everyone watching at home. Right, so we've gone ahead and just loaded the Gamer's 10 core processor, broadwell-e profile, and let's just have a look what that is set. Right, so straight off the back foot, it's still got speed step enabled, so the processor core will jump up and down, but it should set 44 on the core 1 and 2, and then as we change to the other cores it should step down. Alright, so the important thing is the memory is just set at 1333, very easy timings, and the SPD is the Kingston 2666 C15. For anybody interested, we're using the version 51 of the Rampage 10 edition BIOS. So what we're going to do is, like I always like to do, is just run a baseline benchmark before we start tweaking of the memory, just to make sure that we are stable and that we don't have any problems with the core overclock. Okay, sorry, I was on the wrong screen there by the looks of things. So the benchmark I'm running tonight is Geekbench 3. This is for stage 2 of round 3 of the ProOC Cup. My experience with this benchmark is not great. I haven't run it very often, so I'm really not 100% sure as to where it scales and where the problems occur. So that's part of the plan for tonight, is just to see what we sort of do with the scores, and as we tune the memory, if we get any sort of advantages. So we've got our baseline score, and what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and save that for reference. Let's just have a look here. We should have snip somewhere. We'll save that just as stock. Save. Right. So the next thing we'll do is just boot back into the BIOS and go and set the memory timings. Here again, I'm just going to start off with the tools that the ROG team have provided us with and use a memory profile. So the memory kit I'm using is a 4x4 Hynix single-sided, and they are based on the AFR RC, and basically it just goes and sets some nice timings. What I do need to change manually is the voltage. We're just going to set 1.85. It's not really needed for the frequency we're running, but we're just going to set it anyway, and then we'll up the megahertz as we go. looks like it's going to finish. Okay, and just by changing the timings, we have advanced. I'll score about 1,000 points. That's not too shabby. So I'm just going to save that, and then you're going to set and it's at 2666 megahertz, right? So if we just go and can compare what we did at stock versus what we did now. So 2,000 point increase on multi-core integer, only 200 points on float point, and memory performance is quite a nice little jump there. Okay, so it looks like it scales definitely nicely with timings. Let's go and set the megahertz up and see how we do with that. Right, so the only thing I'm going to change is the memory frequency from 2666 to 2800, and we'll try exactly the same test again. Alright, back into Windows. Let's just run the benchmark again. Okay, looking good. Okay, so we save. Alright, so where are we in relation to 2600? So the score increased ever so slightly, not a hell of a lot. On the single core it actually decreased. .44. So on processor integer performance we had an increase, we had a decrease on memory floating point, and an increase on memory performance. Okay, very interesting. Let's up it again and see what happens. So let's put a little music on. Let me know if it's too loud, please. Okay, so that finished, and we do have a bit of a gain. It's not as great as I expected it to be, but you know, baby steps are still steps. And the importance of doing it the way I'm doing it is that you are able to go back and analyze the gains and the disadvantages through each step. Now that's the main reason why I go through and I do this the long way around. It also gives us a point where we can see maybe that when you're pushing it too far, you might actually start to lose in one area compared to gaining, finding the sweet spot almost. So let's just have a look at that. So you can see the gains here are really only about 100 points in the total score. 4482, so 44. We're down on the first test, we're up on the second test, and we're up on the third test. Let's do it one more time. So the plan is to just keep doing exactly what I'm doing, keep increasing the megahertz until we get to a point where it actually stops running. And then we'll go back one step and start tightening up the timings a little bit. And that's the game plan, really. A little bit dull, but at least you get a good understanding of your foundations, of what your memory can do, and to what the IMC can do. Yeah, so the voltage reading is just not quite right. Okay. This doesn't seem to be scaling anymore. No, it is still scaling. No, it's not. 2999, it's higher. Let's run it. I think what we need to look at is the memory performance. Starting to think maybe let's keep going. time the limit, so it's 3466 that I've set. Okay, let's take it back a notch. Right. Yeah, 1.65 volts. I'm sure that's not right. Alright. So that is where we stop scaling, and it's quite a good gain from where we started. So we'll just save that as timing set 3400. So I did cheat a bit and jumped up 2 steps without actually setting them, but can't set you all night either. Okay. So where are we in comparison to the rest of the world? So the Madge Dutch dude. So we've got nobody else that's in the same sort of megahertz. Okay, so now let's try and go one step further. Okay. I don't think there's any gain there, unfortunately. We lost there. We lost there. But we gained a lot there. Let's run it again. That's better. That's 200 points, I think. Yeah. Okay, for reference, I want to just run a quick Cinebench. Okay, let's see what else we can tighten up on that memory. see if we can tighten up here at all. Okay, doesn't seem to like that at all. Okay, so we're just going to get into safe mode and go undo what we just did. It doesn't like it at all. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's about the limitation. Yeah, we've reached the max I think that the memory can do on air. I think it's pretty good. remembering that these are by default 2666. That's 1333 on the CPU Z screen. We got them up to 1699, so that's 1700 megahertz. 12, 15, 17, 15, 270. Pretty damn good. I think HyperX have once again demonstrated that their memory is capable of some good gains. So our base score that we started with, well, doesn't sound like very much, 38821. Just by changing the memory frequencies, we were able to get the score up to 40420. I didn't save that screenshot. That's a fairly healthy increase just by changing memory timings. So I think I'm happy with the memory. I think the clocks, the speed and the timings are pretty aggressive. I think the next step is really now to pack this session up and to move on to liquid nitrogen. So I've got a question there on the chat from Troutman. Love the voltage. What is V1? What is V2? Well, tonight I've got let's just get the right screen up here. Right, so tonight over here I've got the voltage readout. So V1 is supposed to be Vcall and V2 is supposed to be cache. The lab temperature is just obviously the environment temperature that we're sitting in, nice and cozy, 23 degrees. Now when we started we were at 20 degrees, so my gas heater is definitely working nicely. There seems to be a problem with the first voltage reading, so it was working before I started the streaming and now it's not reading too great. The second one, the V2, is actually set to 1.4, so there's about a 0.1 offset from the multimeter to the live voltage readout. But that's something that I'll have a look at. I probably just need to calibrate the tool that we're using or something to that effect, and happy days will be good to go. So all in all, I think quite a successful air testing night. It's great to finally get a little bit of a foundation on this platform. Starting to get to grips a little bit more with the limitations of broadwell-e versus what we're used to on Skylake. So I think tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, get it out of the road quickly. We'll just quickly do liquid nitrogen. I don't expect to get more than 5 gigahertz out of this processor, so we'll just clock it up to 5 gig. We'll set the memory timings to what we achieved tonight, and then do a couple of benchmarks. We're starting off with Cinebench R11.5, and then we'll do a Geekbench as well for the next submission window, just to get out of the way. Unfortunately, I've only got the CPU from Intel for a limited amount of time, so I'll need to just get everything done, compacted. The good news is I do plan to take part in the MSI Godlike competition, so when I'm not doing ProOC streams, I will be bringing you those streams. So I think that just about wraps it up for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Not the most riveting and exciting session, but a session nonetheless. And yeah, until next time, happy benching.